you're trying to quantify something that's like a uniquely personal experience and going like, how do I, it's like, but then if you think about this long or hard enough, you can apply that to anybody who does anything, and it doesn't matter as long as you just do it and just recognize you're just going to make a lot of mistakes. That's it. But you can say that about golfers or cooks or trapeze people or truck drivers or chicken farmers or guys that cut lawns or guys that build roofs or tile. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
It's all the same, man.
Yes. But see, if I started acting, I would be caught up in a very large trap that I wouldn't get caught up in if I started cooking or started golfing even.
Why?
Because I think too much. Like, there's something about golf, like hitting the thing, although I'm bad at golf, but just any other sport that I don't know I'm bad at yet. I can imagine that I wouldn't have this mindfuck thing that would be going on with me. But maybe you're saying that
I have it about other stuff where it's like I don't want to learn how to do certain technical things because I'm so worried I'll make a mistake on the first try.
Yeah.
Knowing that I will, right?
Yeah.
It's so crazy. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
But
yeah.
I think that you're a healthier person for having that, for when you think about acting.
Then that gets into something there. Whereas the less healthy you are, maybe the better of an actor you are.
Yeah, I think so.
And is that your experience with other actors that you admire, that you worked with?
Yeah, I mean, I think so, but it's unfair to just call it like, so it's this idea that they're categorically unhealthy through the rest of their lives, and that's going to be the thing that makes them
right.
a good actor. No, but I think most of them are really damaged psychologically.
Yeah.
And I think the only difference is like, did they work their stuff out or not? And if they didn't, then they're really difficult. They might be brilliant, but they're usually going to be pretty difficult to work with for most of their lives because they're emotionally stunted. Right. And I definitely, for a period of time, I guess, used to be like that. Sure.
Filmmaker Magazine presents Back to One with Peter Rinaldi.
James Ransone is an actor. He sat down with me in New York City to talk about the work.
You land the role, you get the script. What's the first thing you do?
See, man, this is where I'm different than... I don't want to say that I'm different. I tend to find that most people... I tend to find... you know what? I'm not going to speak for most people. I'm only going to speak for myself. I started to notice it about 6 or 7 years ago, where instead of going, well, I'd really like to play X and Y and Z, right? Like, I'd like to play X and Y and Z. I'd like to play a cowboy or an astronaut. That never worked. What I did start to notice is that whatever job I would get at any given time in my life was revealing to me underneath the subtext of whatever sort of allegory it was something that I needed to deal with in my life personally, right? So, or it was something that was occurring that I needed to reconcile with inside of myself. So instead of making it about what I was going to do and give to the audience, it was that, now, I know that some of your listeners are going to bristle at when I say this word, that via the nature of my work, that God was, and however you want to conceptualize that, as like universal consciousness or nature, or was via the mechanism of being an actor, was like, you need to look at this part of your life and you're not doing it. So, and you need to fix this, or you need to pay attention to this. And so once I sort of like would work on something, and then I would be able to reconcile whatever was going on internally with me, which I hadn't looked at before, then I could move on to playing a different role. I have an eerie, there's been an eerie trajectory throughout the course of my career, if I look back, where it was like, why am I always playing these kind of like insecure bullies with like daddy issues? It's like, well, because it turned out I was kind of behaving like an insecure bully with daddy issues at that time in my life.
That's wild. That's wild.
Yeah, but that's made me, I think, better.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't care about what you think.
Yeah.
But it's not. But I'm not doing that because I'm like so tough. It's because it's like the onus is on me that I'm still a messed up person, and that I could be so fortunate to like have the ability that my role is like literally introspection, where it's like, okay, what am I not being really cool about in my life? Like who needs some love and attention, or where are like my default defects of character manifesting in my personal life to my wife or to my brother or to my mom or to my community or whatever, man. And if there's an uncanny weird thing where whatever I'm sort of working on is like whatever I'm going through in my personal life. It's always there's always just some kind of eureka moment where I'm like, I'll read something and I'm like, what? And I'll feel it be like, wait, it's so weird that I have to be in this movie or TV show when it's like I'm already thinking about this stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, and I can find a way to triangulate myself against that. And so whatever the director's personal sort of take about how he wants me to read the lines, like nothing's going to change the sort of like that transcendent sort of nugget that's already inside of me. It tethers me to the work in a way that,
right.
You know what I mean?
Yes. But get me into the nuts and bolts though, like of literally looking at the material you have to do. What's your work toward getting that into you in order to present it in a way that's, you're going to be happy with? Is there a certain process you...
I'm never happy with it, though.
I knew I shouldn't have said that word.
Yeah, I haven't watched anything I've done in so long. I just saw a clip of myself, and I was, like, so upset. Yeah, I saw myself front screen for 30 seconds. I was like, man, that's not good.
I think that's healthy. That is probably healthy. If somebody's sitting there loving themselves...
Well, to be honest, man, after a day of doing this... This is too much for me. I don't like talking about myself. It's boring. I have to live with myself 24 hours a day.
I understand that.
So you're like, what's the process? Like, I'm like, I don't want to talk about me. It's so boring. And so I have to leave. I have to leave here on days like this. And
yeah, I heard you say that somewhere. I read that somewhere.
But it gets worse with age.
Yeah,
it's getting worse, man. I don't want to talk about me.
Yeah, I love this place you're in. Because I want to talk about you in this place you're in. No, I'm serious.
But this is where it becomes like a hall of mirrors, where it's like I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
And I can go like, oh yeah, sure. And then I still have to self-audit, and I can't be fully transparent with you, and then that sucks.
Yeah.
And then because on some level we know that we're being perceived. And it's this like crazy dance that we do.
Yes.
And we're trying to mitigate someone's perception of what it is that we're saying, and that's crazy.
Right.
That makes that you realize that makes us sick people.
I was just going to say that's the kind of thing that would make me absolutely insane.
But you're doing it right now because you know that there's an audience that's going to listen to this at some point. So you're trying to mitigate their perception of you, and I'm doing that on some level.
Right. Well, wait. Let me ask you to talk about somebody else then.
Okay.
Besides you.
Perfect.
Okay. Directors.
Yeah.
It's kind of about you, okay, but I want to know just what you need from a director in general that just helps you. Talk to me about them, and like right in your mind right now, I want you to picture a bad director you've had. What were some of the things, what made that person bad for you? Not as successful in terms of, on set or whatever for the whole work.
Well, I don't really remember a lot of the bad ones. I remember interactions that I had where it's like I wished I hadn't lost my temper quickly, or that I had gotten a little short or impatient with people that, and there's a lot of that. I mean, film sets are hard. There's so much pressure to get it done in a day, and the coordination it takes for all these departments to sort of communicate interdimensionally about so many things. Like you're gonna get in fights, you just are.
Yeah.
It's not always fun to go to work. But that's like any other job.
Right.
That's the part you don't it's like
it's always a boss.
When you work in a sausage factory.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't remember a lot of the directors where I think, oh, that was a bad director. I think that was an inexperienced director, or that's not the way I would have done it, but I'm also not directing the movie. And because I went to film school, I know how hard it is to direct a movie. And I have friends that are directors and who have intimate conversations with, but I'd say I know what makes a good director.
Do it.
I don't really need anything other than I want them to be like, close your mouth, or you do this weird thing with your eye, or like, can you stop doing the thing with your hands? I'd say my two favorite directors so far that I worked with were Ty West and Steven Soderbergh. Mm-hmm. Ty, I think, has not fully even blossomed in, but he's changing because, you know, he's really committed to only kind of, he wants to run the show where he wants to write and direct and do all of it. And I empathize with it, but I feel like he's going to become a really good director when he decides to just like let other people write his ideas. The trust, you know, just in the same way that I have to learn trust with other people. Soderbergh I really liked for a lot of reasons, and a lot of it has to do with, like, it's like running a business. You know, at a certain point, you're the boss of a business, and your department heads and their crews, they all depend on you to feed their families. So you have to make things. And so what I really liked about him was his ability to create a working environment that was really egalitarian. And he also moved really quickly. Mm-hmm. He understands the psychology of actors in the worst possible way. So he understands the worst things that they're capable of. So he creates a set where you cannot behave in that manner. Based on how he shoots, how he edits. He plays everything close to the chest, you know. I loved it. It was awesome because it was so scary, right? Because it's like, you know, when you're there, it's you're not talking about anything. He's like, all right, how would you do it? You know, I would watch him do that. That was the other thing I took away is he would, no matter how he wanted to film it in his head, he'd come in and let you get all your actor bullshit out of like, I just feel like my character. So you go ahead, you block out the scene. Okay, that's interesting. You know, like then he sort of plans the shot around that. Everything's pre-lit practically, right? It's as quiet as a Zen monastery. And then he's constantly thinking, who's the scene about? So if you're being a dick or not carrying your weight, he'll just point the camera at somebody else. And that's the most terrifying thing for an actor. Right? That's when he's getting your head.
Right.
Right?
Like he's not filming me enough?
Yeah, I had heard that about Clint Eastwood that did that to some actor at one point where it was just like, all right, well, I'll just point it at somebody else. And all of a sudden...
It's crazy, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, people, like actors basically all at a certain point are like, they're like threatening to commit suicide by jumping off a building, right? And like you watch these, and most directors... Yeah. They're these like hostage negotiators, right? Where they come, and they're like, "Well, let's talk about it." And it's like you eat up a whole day doing that shit, right? The best directors, the best hostage negotiators are like, "Jump."
That's an amazing analogy.
They're like, "Jump,
that's
kill
really
yourself."
Interesting.
And they're like, "But I don't." It's like, okay, well, we've established that you don't want to kill yourself. So can you come off the fucking ledge? You know what I mean?
That's amazing.
Yeah, the best ones do not negotiate with terrorists. It's like Mel Gibson where he's handcuffs them and they jump off the thing.
Yes.
It's because you don't want to give an actor that much psychological rope to hang you with. But they also get the short end of the stick because you want them to be like emotionally immature. You want them to have a level of access to that stuff where it's like, it sucks. It's a total double-edged sword. Yeah. And I empathize with actors, but at the same time, when they become successful enough to hold your movie hostage, they will if you let them.
Yeah.
You know, so any young, by the way, if you're a young actor and you're listening to this and you find yourself getting to that point, like that shit's over, man. It's not the 90s. Like they won't put up with that. You know, like even if you become really successful, you got one or two good movies and then you're a failure, that's it. It's over. Those days are done. Don't do that anymore. It's not interesting either. It's really boring.
Do you like rehearsal?
It depends.
What does it depend on?
I don't like fucking around.
Yeah.
I don't like it when... I don't like it... I like true, brutal, blunt honesty. It hurts, but it's better, right? So... if you're a director that's like, you're going to sit here and you're going to say this and I need you to say this and this and this, it's like, okay, well then I know what I'm working with. But don't block it out. Don't let me dance around and then do what you're going to do anyway.
Thinking that they have to let you get your
Yeah,
stuff out.
like don't do that. I mean, but again, I'm not all actors, you know. I look at it like this. You get about 1 out of every 7 or 8 jobs, and this is if you're lucky to be able to sort of like feel creatively fulfilled, where it's like, oh, that was a cathartic moment, and I had fun with these people, and I like the material, and you don't make any money doing this stuff anyway. So you get one of those like every 7 or 8 jobs. The rest of it is like, I have a really crazy, weird skill set, which is that I can pretend to be other people. They hire me to do that job, and while it feels like sparkly to everybody else, it's like I'm on the factory floor making sausage. You know, and so I've learned to make sausage in a certain way where it's like, okay, well, how do we get this done as quickly, efficiently, and sort of fun as possible for everybody else around me? You know?
At the end of the day,
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Because so I'm working on It 2 right now.
Yeah.
Right? We're filming that up in Canada.
Yeah.
And by far, they haven't used a lot of green screen. It's been a lot of practical sets, right? And suffice to say what the set is, because I don't want to give away any spoilers, I walked into a studio that's the size of a football field, and the whole thing was built, right? This like incredible, and my mind goes to the amount of engineering that had to go into this to rig it so the lighting could work in a particular manner, so they could get the cameras in, but yet then the art department who paints things to look exactly like real life, and the communication that all of those people needed to have that started out in Stephen King's head to get it to here is so mind-blowing to me that it's like, what do I give a shit what my character had for breakfast? It's like, do you know what I mean? It's like, by the time I get there, I should be saying the words exactly the way the director wants me to say them, because he's lived with it longer than me no matter what.
See, when I hear that, though, it makes total sense to me, like you're saying it. But there still is this thing, if you don't care about what he had for breakfast, you have to care what he did right before that moment, though, right?
Do you?
Well, I'm asking.
I don't know. I don't know what's in your head as an editor. That's your responsibility. Because this is the other thing, too, that's like, well, then be a director about it, man. Like, take responsibility in the same way that... Did you ever see True Fall on Hitchcock?
Yes.
Right? And he talks about Montgomery Clift coming outside, and he's like, well, I just don't think my character would look up. He's like, just look up, dude. Because he doesn't know that Hitchcock in his head is editing, that he's going to pan up, and it telegraphs to the audience that Montgomery Clift's got this secret. Right?
Right.
So don't be like, you care about what you had for breakfast. It's like, no, that's on you, because we're making movies. It's your medium. I'm just a little craftsman to come in here. So if you don't like the way that I do it, then don't hire me. Like, and somebody else will do it. So if you want somebody that cares about all that stuff, be prepared for the rest of the shit that comes along with it. Which is like, I just feel like my character would take his coffee cup and do this. Like, yeah, there are technical things where I'm like, this doesn't make sense to me based on sort of where we are and tracking those beats, but to get into the minutia of that stuff.
You have to trust if they say to do something, even though it doesn't make sense, you have to trust.
Yeah, but at the same time, you have to trust me. That you're like, wouldn't you think about? It's like, I don't know, man, what are you thinking about in the editing room? Like, I trust you, right? So if you don't want me to interfere on you being a director, which is like, you want me to help you get this done as fast as possible, like, what do you need from me? Like, I don't like that when it's this weird fetishy thing where it's like, what's my actor's emotional process? It's just not, it's not interesting to me.
Well, that brings up a good question. What about when you're in a scene with somebody like that opposite you, that's like feeling it? Wait, we have to wait, guys. I have to let me feel this out.
Yeah, I mean, but that for me, it's like I'm sensitive to that stuff because it's really hard, man. It's really hard. It's really hard to you don't know what anybody's personal life is going on. Like,
so you're saying
like, wait, there's like literally, because it's not the same as theater. right? So, and I think this is actually where people get confused. It's like, if you're an actor and you want to throw your weight around, go work on a stage, because the director leaves at a certain point, right? And they do have a responsibility, actors, to question all that stuff in a way that the director is not responsible for.
Right.
The director is supposed to be there, you know what I mean, to flesh that out. Filmmaking is a different medium. It is, and so, you know, I'm that's not saying that I'm insensitive to actors, or that they're like, if they're not, you know, it's really hard to go like, oh shit, like my kids are in preschool and oh man, like like no one picked them up and I have to be away and my wife is yelling at me and you know, or like, oh, the pipes burst in my house and I'm away, and then just like jump from that to be like, okay, well now cry.
Yeah.
Like if that takes somebody a minute to work into, and you know, and they need help coaxing that out of them, like by all means. Yeah. Of course, that's not what I'm saying.
Right. I mean, but is there ever a time when you're working with somebody though that's just not on, that you're both approaching the same material differently? It's not so much what they need, but it's just their approach that's very different from yours. Like, what do you do in those situations, or in the same place, like when you get in trouble with a line or anything, like
nothing. In the same way that you would do any other job.
You mean if the sausage machine gets
it's
cocked?
Dumb. It's dumb. The only thing that I can do is go like, oh, that person's better than me? Well, what can I learn from them? Like, oh, how'd you do that? You know, like I feel like I learned a lot from Bill Hader, just in comedy stuff, and not even from stuff that he taught me, but I would just watch certain things that he would do, and so I feel like I was like, okay, well, how do I get better at that? But if it's some of the reverse, is like, I don't like the way that you do something. Well, imagine being in any job and being at your cubicle and be like, Susan, why do you file the reports like that? You're just going to make your own life shitty.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but the analogy, a closer analogy would be you guys are working on the reports together. You know, and she's doing the reports in a certain...
my take on that is to go like, okay, well, this person works differently than I do, or they're not good, so how can I learn from them? Because you'll make it's too sensitive, man. It's too the psychology of, you're talking about the psychology of emotionally stunted, damaged people,
right?
And then you're like, how do you talk to them rationally about how to manipulate their emotions in a way that you like or think is subjectively good for a story? It's like, don't do that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It's dangerous. Because I've done it when I was younger with older actors, right? Where it's like, I think your character would say it. And it's like, man, I had a young actress do it to me recently. I was like, I can't wait till you... I'm not going to say her name. Famous parents. She works a lot, and she's not a good actor. But she said something to me where I was like, man, I can't wait till you come up against like a Shirley MacLaine or who's just like, get out of here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. I learned my lesson. It's like, don't do that to other actors. Do not tell them, well, I just think I would say it that way. You want to know why? Because you're not the director.
Yeah. You
should hope that the director is like, spot that. You know,
right.
We got to dial.
Right.
You know, that's the director's job. It is not my job to be like, I don't like the way you're doing this.
That's horrible, yeah.
You know, if I like the person, so that's usually what it is, right? It's like, I can work with somebody who I'm like, oh, I don't like the way that they're doing the scene, or they're just not on today. You know, because that's the thing. Right. They're just not on today. So what can I do on my side of the coverage to help them turn on? But if I don't like them, I'm like,
yeah.
That's the real challenge. You want to be a really good actor? Try to make somebody better who you don't like, who you also don't think is a good actor.
Ooh, that's like, yeah.
Yeah, you want to know who it makes better? You.
Yeah.
I haven't done that. I worked on something recently where I was like, all right, watch this. And turn around and screw up their whole coverage because I did something different and watch them freak out. And that was lame of me. That wasn't cool of me just because they were being an asshole. I didn't make the situation better.
And what about auditions? Do you have your approach to this insane event that doesn't seem to be getting any better. Like you'd figure they would figure out a way. I don't know. Maybe it is better self-taping.
That part's better. That part's better.
So you like just being able to just.
That part's better because I just can burn a tape and then I don't have to ever think about it again. And that took so long before I was even able to let that go. So like, how did I? It's like, it doesn't matter, man. There's so many factors.
Yeah.
And no matter how much you say this till you're blue in the face, no one, if you're young, you're not going to listen to that advice until it just gets out of you.
Yeah.
Until you exhaust that part of yourself, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I cared for so long, like, oh, what do they think? And there are so many factors that go into casting someone. You're like, wait, this guy just looks too much like this other guy. It's like they're not gonna play against like them that plays against type, and you think like, but I did the best.
Yeah, right.
It's just that shit does not matter.
Right. So you, after a certain point, you just found a way to let it go.
You have to.
Yeah.
Bill Hader told me that Henry Winkler read for Barry.
Wow.
Yeah, in the waiting room, I think.
Wow.
That guy made MacGyver.
Yeah.
He's like totally wealthy. You know what I mean? He's like one of the richest guys in Hollywood. He came up with the idea for MacGyver, and he had enough humility. That was what I learned from you. That was another thing I learned from Bill Hader. Right? Which was awesome. And I was old enough because he's doing really well right now.
Yeah.
Like really well. And I had this whole thing for years where people would be like, Ziggy, and I'd be like, well, fuck them. Because they can't see that I can do all this other great stuff. If they only knew the depth of my range and what I can play. Yeah. The onus was on me to prove myself. Like, why do I keep getting offered parts like Ziggy? So Bill told me this great story because he was like, he's a total film nerd. He knows so much about movies and acting and books, and he consumes culture in a way that I did too as I was a kid. Mm-hmm. And so he was like, I'm the funny guy on SNL that plays Stefan, and I do all these like funny bit parts. He's like, but I want to be taken a little bit more seriously. So instead of being like, I know I can be taken seriously, he told his agents, he was like, hey, look, no matter what table read, just get me to the table reads. Just put me to table read. I'll come in and read all the different parts. Every table read. It doesn't matter if low, indie, how the budget on that. Yeah. Right? And I think he did a table read for a drama, and that was, I think, I don't want to tell his story for him, but it was a good lesson for me to learn because I was like, oh, that's right. That's how this works. It was because he went and... he got skeleton twins from a table read he did for a different movie. Because somebody was like, oh, he can be serious. So he went and proved it to them. And this was after he was on SNL.
Right. That's what you have to do to change the perception.
It's just your perception of the world and how you relate to it is that until that changes, nothing changes.
Right.
Which is to go like, okay, well, it's on me. And even if it might not be on you, and even if some other people were being assholes... just be like, you know what, I'll figure out a way to look at where I screwed this up and change that variable enough so moving forward I can accomplish the goals that I would like to accomplish. Right. Nobody else owes you anything for anything.
Right.
It took me forever to understand that. And it took me forever to understand that I was even saying that to myself.
Right. You don't even know.
Yeah, you're most people don't even know that they're doing it. Yeah. But I can guarantee you're doing it.
Yeah. He's talking to you.
I'm talking to everyone. Yeah. I'm talking to me too. There's still stuff that I do.
Talking to me.
There's still stuff that I do.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm owed this. No, you're not. I'm going to tell you a story to make you feel better. And I tell my brother this story. And every time I listen to anyone bitch or complain about where they are in their job, right? I tell them this. And I know I'm going to leave out all of the names, all right? So last year, I did a movie called Captive State with Rupert Wyatt, and I had a pretty good part in it. It comes out next year. It's with John Goodman. But then I got dropped by my agency for some other things that had to do with politics, actually. I didn't vote for Trump. I asked a question that they didn't like that if they had answered, they could have been found liable. right? And it had to do with politics. And I was sort of like, I don't know whether I want to be in this business anymore. I really felt that way. But a friend of mine who had helped, a friend of mine was casting a TV show, and she had just started kind of branched out on her own, and she was down to the wire, and she was testing people for a cable show. And she asked me to be the reader, right? Where I would read the lines with the people that were going to get the part in this show. I needed a job, man. I really needed a job at that point. Like, I was like, okay, I got to make my nut for the year, money-wise. So I was like, okay, sure, I'll read for you. The director was a director that I have worked on multiple movies with before. This person had hired me to be in their movies. After reading all these parts for people, right, they were like, would you like to audition for the fractional series regular role, which means I wasn't even going to be on the whole first season. I auditioned for it, and I didn't get it. With the director that I had been in 2 movies in, with the casting director who I had been, and I was reading. This is after I had been on The Wire and Generation Kill and a whole. And do you know what I did? I didn't go, why? I went, okay, whatever, and then I just kept moving.
Yeah.
Just keep it moving, man.
Yeah.
And I did not think, how dare you? I thought like, okay. You know, I want to think all those things. I want to think like, why the fuck are you not hiring me?
Yeah. Like you said.
But that's such a waste of time.
Yes.
Because you want to know what they're not thinking about? Me. You know what they're thinking about? Themselves.
Yeah.
So it's just this idea that like, I finally made it. Now the world owes me. Now that they see the richness of my talent, it's like, no, you're boring now. Now you're just like everyone else.
I think you should talk a little bit about this show. The first.
I didn't have a lot to listen. I'm really lucky to be on that show.
Yeah.
The prestige element of Bo Willimon and Jordan Tapas, and even how they made the show, because they're both the studio and the production company, which is a kind of a coup in Hollywood. And I wish they handle it all themselves. They don't outsource any of that to a bunch of thieves. So all the money they get goes into the show. Doesn't go into some jerk who has comments about the script about his pool house. Right. So I just have an infinite amount of respect for them.
Yeah.
I didn't have a ton to do this year, and I understand all of the reasons why. I think we're going to come back, and I think I'll have a lot more to do next year.
Nice.
Yeah.
And this is a thing you're looking forward to. This is like a good.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
I had a really nice time on that show. And I actually, I know this is going to sound like that capital A actor lying stuff, but I actually really like Sean Penn, and I thought he was I actually thought he was like really gracious, really generous actor, really generous performer. I mean, just person about stuff.
And is this like a surprise?
Yeah, of course it's a surprise. Why wouldn't it be a surprise? I've been doing this for so long. I'm like, if this person's not an asshole, I will be shocked.
It's just the reputation of asshole to other actors?
But that's what is interesting. It's like the whole, usually, man, like the people that are so amazing that you get in your social media, like they are the worst to deal with.
Right.
The other ones, it's like, oh, this guy's like a fallible, interesting, normal, well, somewhat normal, given the circumstances of your life. But like, not precious. He was not precious at all.
Wow, that's cool.
I've been around movie stars, so it's like it's very precious to be in their space. There's an enunciation as if like we're about to coronate some fucking king. You walk onto your set. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So dumb.
What do you do when you're not acting to feed your inner actor?
Oh, that's the most actory question.
You don't like the semantics of the word inner actor.
What do I do? Because that's dumb. It's dumb because I find it inherently sort of like I find it allegorically satanic. No, follow me here, and I don't mean that in a like fire and brimstone-y way. I mean it in the prideful interaction in the world in which that I think that the ultimate state of being is me. Right? And so again, this shit is exhausting, man, because like I don't want to think about me. I think, dude, there's so much amazing stuff in the world. Amazing. Okay, like you want to feed the inner American actor. You know, Mesoamerican calendars like measured their time cycles by the length of gestation, and the ratio to their days to months is phi, which is 1.61. Do you know how fucking crazy that is that they figured that out? You know how beautiful that is that time exists in the same way that space is beautiful?
Yes.
I could trip out on that for days. Yeah. When I go home, why do I want to read Stanislavski and think about me more? That's what I mean is that's what the allegory of the devil is I know what I'm doing. I'm the most important person here. Everyone look at me, call attention to me. Well, it's like, well, then I've insulated myself from anything that's interesting about me that I have nothing to do with.
Right. I'm going to just give one pushback to this.
Okay.
Then you'll probably strangle me.
No,
it'll be a good ending.
You.
It'll be a good ending.
I'm not going to strangle you. It's just I don't think you can be a good actor by thinking about yourself.
That's what I was going to say, though. Could it be that some people avoid this thing that you cannot stand because they literally think of their instrument as separate from them?
No, and the reason why I'm telling you this is because I used to be that person. So I can tell you from experience of having to like work through all of this, which is like, why am I in pain? Why do I feel uncomfortable? And the reason why is because I was so attached to me and all my bullshit that I made it so precious that it was like, once I was able to be like, you know what, man, none of that matters. The only thing that matters is like what God, universal consciousness, and whatever it decides to manifest through me via my perception of my experience of just being alive for this tiny moment in time. Yes. So why the hell I'm so impermanent. I don't want to get too far off the deep end of crazy metaphysical stuff because that'll start to sound stupid to me. I'll listen back to this and I'll be like, I'm not going to listen to this because I can't listen to myself, but I'll think, man, that was dumb. I started to sound like a fucking windbag, pondering all these things, but I truly mean that. There's all of this interesting stuff in the world that I didn't make, I didn't have anything to do with. That stuff is cool, right? And the more I know and experience and interact with that, and just the less I can stop thinking about myself and see other people, in the same way you were talking about that guy walks down the street, right? And you're like, fuck this guy, what's he think of me? It's like, he's not thinking of him, man. Yeah. He's thinking the same exact thing. This guy bumped into me. Yeah. But if you can step back from that for 2 seconds, this weird thing opens up where you start to go like, well, that person's in a lot of pain. Right. I wonder what's bothering them. Right. That person's really happy. Oh my God, look at the way they're touching their child's face. Like, oh my God, that's where stuff just gets really interesting. Yeah. And it's like, you want a reservoir to pull from to make your art? That's it. That's the thing. More than what feeds the inner actor. You know what feeds the inner actor? Fucking fake chicken McNuggets. A lot of Coca-Cola. Same thing that feeds the outer actor.
James Ransone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
So much for this.
Yeah.
Back to One is a production of Filmmaker Magazine, which is a publication of IFP, the Independent Filmmaker Project. It's produced by Spencer Rain. Listen to back episodes of this podcast at filmmakermagazine.com or wherever you get your podcasts.